Subscribe now and hit the like button. If you believe in second chances, comment below. What's the biggest betrayal you've ever witnessed? The billionaire's suspicion and the nanny's secret. Sarah, what on earth is going on here? Daniel Hayes' voice cut through the penthouse air like a knife. Sarah Miller looked up from the kitchen floor, cheeks soaked with tears, her mobile trembling. Her red eyes met her boss's furious gaze as he stood at the entrance, arms crossed, his impeccable suit rumpled with tension. Mr. Hayes, I can explain. Explain what, exactly? Daniel took a step towards her, his voice laced with contempt. That my crystal vase was smashed this morning? That my important contracts were scattered on the floor yesterday? Or perhaps that my security system failed twice this week? Sarah wiped her tears with the back of her hand, but didn't get up. Her uniform was crumpled and damp from crying. It wasn't intentional, sir. Things have been difficult. Difficult? Daniel let out a bitter laugh. Do you know what's difficult, Sarah? Building a company from scratch, working 18 hours a day, trusting someone, and having them betray you. The accusation hit Sarah like a slap. She managed to stand, though her legs trembled. Betray you? I would never. Enough lies, Daniel interrupted her. I've been watching. Things don't break themselves. Documents don't move by magic. And my security system doesn't fail without help. Daniel Hayes, 34, had learned not to trust anyone. His fintech company had made him a billionaire, but also a tough, suspicious man. He'd grown up in poverty, seen his own mother die because they couldn't afford her treatment, and swore he'd never be vulnerable again. Sarah, 28, had arrived in London from a small town in Yorkshire 2 years ago. She was a single mother, working 4 different jobs to send money home, where her 6-year-old daughter lived with her grandmother. Mr. Hayes, please let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You're fired. The words fell like stones between them. Sarah felt her world collapsing. This job was the best-paying one she had. Without it, she wouldn't be able to. No, she cried, and something in her desperate voice made Daniel stop. My daughter is sick. Daniel frowned. He hadn't expected that answer. What? Sarah collapsed again, this time onto one of the kitchen chairs, and her phone fell from her hands. The screen showed a WhatsApp conversation with her mother. Emily has leukemia, she whispered. The doctors say she needs a treatment that costs more money than I can make in my entire life. Silence stretched between them like a crack in the ice. Daniel stood frozen, processing the words. I've been working day and night for 3 months, trying to gather the money. I come here after cleaning offices all night. I hardly sleep, I barely eat. Sarah's voice broke. And yes, I've been distracted. I've accidentally broken things because I can't think of anything but my child dying. Daniel slowly approached and saw the phone screen. The photos showed a small girl in a hospital bed, smiling weakly, despite being connected to several tubes. The security system. I forgot the codes because I was crying. The papers fell because I was trembling after talking to the doctor. Sarah looked up at him. But I would never steal from you. I would never intentionally harm you. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something stir in his chest. The image of the sick child reminded him of his own mother, lying in a similar bed, slowly dying, while he could do nothing to save her. How much do you need? He asked quietly. Sarah looked at him, surprised. Pardon? For the treatment. How much money do you need? 2 million pounds, she murmured. But I'm not asking you for it. I'm going to give it to you. The words came out of Daniel's mouth before he could stop them. Sarah's eyes widened. No, Mr. Hayes, I can't accept your charity. It's not charity, he said quickly, surprising himself. It's an advance. You'll work for me for a full year to pay it back. Sarah was silent, processing the offer. A year of work to save her daughter's life. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do that for me?" Daniel didn't have a clear answer. He just knew he couldn't let another child die for lack of money, not if he could help it. "Why?" "Because I also lost my mother because we couldn't afford her treatment." The confession left them both in shock. Daniel had never told anyone that, and Sarah had never seen vulnerability in her boss's eyes. "I accept," she said finally. "I'll work for you as long as it takes." For the first time since they met, Daniel saw a genuine smile on Sarah's face. And for the first time in years, he felt he had done something truly important. Unbeknownst to them, both had just taken the first step towards something that would change their lives forever. What would you have done in Daniel's shoes? Would you have fired Sarah or offered to help? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more emotional journeys. A glimmer of hope. "Are you sure you want me to prepare dinner?" Sarah asked from the kitchen, nervously glancing at the dining room where Daniel worked on his laptop. 2 weeks had passed since their agreement, and the dynamic between them was still strange. She wasn't just his housekeeper anymore, but they didn't know exactly what she was now. "Yes, it's fine," he replied, without looking up from the screen. "I'm hungry too." It was the first time they would have dinner together. Before, Daniel always arrived after she left or ate alone in his office. But now, with the extended hours to work off the advance, they found themselves in situations like this. Sarah prepared something simple, chicken and rice with vegetables. As she cooked, her phone rang. It was her mother from Yorkshire. "How's my granddaughter?" Daniel suddenly asked, appearing in the kitchen. Sarah startled. She hadn't heard him approach. "She's better. The doctors say the new medication is working." "What's her name?" "Emily. Emily Miller." Daniel nodded and stood there, clearly uncomfortable, but not leaving. Sarah continued cooking, feeling the weight of his gaze. Can I see her?" The question surprised her. Sarah looked up and saw something different in Daniel's eyes. Genuine curiosity, perhaps. She showed him some photos on her phone. Emily smiling with a pink wig. Emily drawing in her hospital bed. Emily hugging her grandmother. "She's beautiful," he murmured. "She looks like you." "Thank you, sir." "Daniel," he said. "You can call me Daniel when we're alone." They ate in silence for the first few minutes. Daniel couldn't remember the last time he'd eaten a home-cooked meal. Everything tasted better than he expected. "How did you learn to cook like this?" he finally asked. "My grandmother. She taught me since I was a little girl. I always dreamed of having my own restaurant someday." "And what happened to that dream?" Sarah smiled sadly. "Life. I got pregnant at 22. Emily's dad disappeared when he found out. My plans changed." Daniel nodded, understanding more than he cared to admit about how dreams could change due to circumstances. "And you?" Sarah asked. "Did you always want to be an entrepreneur?" "No, I wanted to be a doctor, like the ones who couldn't save my mother." The confession came naturally, surprising them both. Daniel never talked about his past. "What made you change my mind?" "Reality. Doctors need years of study and money I didn't have. Technology allowed me to grow faster." Over the next few weeks, these dinners became routine. Daniel arrived earlier and earlier, and Sarah began cooking for two without him asking. One night, as she was organizing papers in his office, Daniel noticed something impressive. "How did you organize all this?" he asked, looking at the perfectly classified documents. "By date and by importance. Urgent contracts are here, follow-ups here, and completed ones there." Daniel was speechless. His professional assistants had never achieved such an efficient system. "How did you know what was most important?" "I read everything before filing it. To organize it well, I have to understand it." That night, Daniel stayed awake thinking about the conversation. Sarah wasn't just intelligent. She had a natural instinct for business that his employees with master's degrees didn't possess. The next day, he came home with a surprise. "What's this?" Sarah asked, looking at the package he'd left on the table. "Books on business management and some on the restaurant industry." Sarah looked at him, surprised. Why? Because dreams don't have to die forever. Sometimes, they just need to wait for the right moment. That night, as Sarah eagerly leafed through the books, Daniel realized something that scared him. He liked seeing her happy. He liked being the reason for that smile. 2 days later, Sarah arrived crying, but this time from joy. "Emily's test results came back. The tumor is responding to treatment," she shouted, completely forgetting protocol. Before she could stop herself, she hugged Daniel. He stiffened for a moment, but then, slowly, he hugged her back. "I'm so glad," he murmured against her hair. "Truly." When they separated, both realized something had changed between them. The line between employer and employee had completely blurred. "I want to meet her," Daniel suddenly said. "Who?" "Emily. I want to meet your daughter." Sarah stared at him, looking for any sign that he wasn't serious. "Are you serious?" "Completely. This weekend, if you like, we can go to Yorkshire together." The proposal left them both in unknown territory. It wasn't just about work or money anymore. Daniel wanted to be part of Sarah's life, and she, to her surprise, wanted him to be there. "All right," she whispered. "But I warn you, Emily asks a lot of questions." Daniel smiled, a genuine smile Sarah had never seen before. "Perfect. I like curious girls." That night, as each of them prepared for sleep on opposite sides of the penthouse, both knew the trip to Yorkshire would change everything between them. What neither dared to admit was that they hoped it would. What do you think will happen when Daniel meets Emily? Will this unexpected connection blossom into something more? Share your predictions in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more heartwarming stories. A family in the making. "Mommy!" Emily cried from her hospital bed when she saw Sarah enter. Daniel stood at the entrance of the room, observing the girl he had only seen in photographs. She was smaller than he expected, with a bright pink wig and enormous eyes that sparkled with joy at seeing her mother. "Of course I came, my love," Sarah said, rushing to hug her daughter. "And I brought someone who wanted to meet you." Emily looked towards the door with curiosity. Daniel slowly approached, feeling more nervous than he had been in any business meeting. "Hello, Emily. I'm Daniel. Are you Mummy's boss?" the girl asked directly. "Yes." "Well, something like that." "Are you rich?" "Emily," Sarah admonished her, but Daniel laughed. "Yes, I have money." "Why?" "Because Mummy says only rich people can afford good doctors, and my doctors are very good, so someone rich must be paying them." The child's simple logic completely disarmed Daniel. He sat in the chair by the bed. "You're very clever." "I know," Emily replied with complete naturalness. "You're the one who's helping me get better." Daniel looked at Sarah, who nodded slightly. "Yes, I'm helping." "Why?" It was the question Daniel had asked himself hundreds of times. He looked into Emily's curious eyes and found an answer he didn't know he had. "Because clever girls like you deserve the chance to grow up and do amazing things." Emily smiled and extended her small hand. "Then we're friends." Daniel took her hand carefully, as if it were glass. "We're friends." During the hospital visit, Daniel was impressed by Emily's bravery. She explained her treatments as if they were adventures, joked about her wig, and drew a portrait of the three of them together that, although deformed, managed to move the adults. "You know what I want to be when I grow up? A doctor, to cure other children like me." Daniel felt a lump in his throat. This 6-year-old girl had more clarity about her life's purpose than he did at 34. Later, at Sarah's mother's house, Daniel experienced something completely new. A real family. "So you're the famous boss," said Mrs. Davies, Sarah's mother, serving coffee in chipped but clean cups. "Sarah talks a lot about you. I hope good things," Daniel replied, feeling out of place in the simple, yet warm house. "She says you're very hard-working and generous." Mrs. Davies studied him with knowing eyes, "but also that you seem sad." The direct observation caught him off guard. "I'm not sad, madam. Of course you are. I see it in your eyes. Men who work hard to forget something always have that look." During dinner, Daniel observed the family dynamic. Sarah completely relaxed, laughing naturally, helping in the kitchen, holding Emily as if to compensate for all the weeks of absence. "What's your job like?" Mrs. Davies asked him. Daniel began to explain about fintech, but he realized he sounded like a robot. He stopped and started again. "I help people manage their money better, so they don't have to go through what I went through as a child." "And what happened when you were a child?" Daniel looked at Sarah, who encouraged him with a gentle smile. "My mother died because we didn't have money to cure her." "Just like Emily's illness," Mrs. Davies nodded with understanding. "Is that why you're helping my granddaughter?" "Yes, and that's why my daughter appreciates you so much." That night, while Emily slept between Sarah and her grandmother in the main bedroom, Daniel stayed on the small sofa in the living room. He couldn't sleep. The house was very different from his silent penthouse. Here there was life, love, purpose. "Can't you sleep?" Sarah asked quietly, appearing in the living room. "I'm not used to so much noise." Sarah sat at the other end of the sofa. "Noise? Happiness," he corrected. "I'm not used to so much happiness around me." They fell silent, listening to the night sounds of the town. "Do you know what Emily told me before she went to sleep?" Sarah whispered. "What?" "That she likes you. That she wishes you could be her dad." The comment hit Daniel like lightning. He turned to look at Sarah in the dim light. "And what did you tell her?" "That things aren't always so simple. And what if they could be?" The question hung between them, loaded with possibilities neither dared to name. "Daniel, I know, we're very different. I come from a cold world, you from one full of love. I don't know how to be part of a family." "You learn," she murmured, "like everything important in life." They looked at each other in silence, and for the first time, both internally admitted what they had been feeling for weeks. It wasn't just gratitude or compassion, it was love. But they also knew that their situation was complicated. He was her boss, she her employee. He was a millionaire, she worked to survive. There were too many differences, too many obstacles. Or at least that's what they thought that night, unaware that their world was about to become even more complicated. The next day, during the drive back to London, Emily waved them goodbye with a smile that stayed etched in Daniel's heart. "Promise you'll come back?" the girl asked him. "I promise," he replied. And for the first time in years, he made a promise he truly wanted to keep. In the car, back to their reality, Sarah and Daniel spoke little. Both knew that something fundamental had changed during those 24 hours in Yorkshire. The question was, what they were going to do about it. Do you think Daniel and Sarah can overcome their differences and build a future together? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the next thrilling twist. The seeds of doubt and the truth unveiled. "Daniel, we need to talk. Now." Richard Newman's voice sounded more serious than usual as he burst into the office without warning. Daniel looked up from the documents he was reviewing, surprised by the grave expression of his partner and friend from university. "What's wrong, Richard? You look upset." "It's about your housekeeper, Sarah Miller." The name made Daniel tense immediately. "What does Sarah have to do with this?" Richard closed the door and placed a folder on the desk. I've been investigating your unusual expenses. £200,000 in medical treatments, extra payroll expenses. Daniel, I think you're being used. What are you talking about? Open the folder. With trembling hands, Daniel opened the folder. Inside were photographs, documents, and reports that made his world sway. Her brother, Michael Miller, started working at TechCorp exactly 3 months ago, Richard explained. Just after she started working full-time for you. Daniel looked at the photos. A young man in a corporate uniform leaving the building of his main competitor. TechCorp is the company that's been stealing our clients, remember? Richard continued. 3 important contracts we lost in the last few weeks. And look at the dates. The documents showed a chronology that seemed too perfect to be coincidence. Each client loss coincided with days Sarah had been in his penthouse, with access to his office. No, it can't be, Daniel murmured. I'm sorry, mate. I know you got attached to her and her daughter's sick story, but think about it. Doesn't it seem too convenient? A vulnerable housekeeper who coincidentally needs exactly the amount of money you can provide, whose brother happens to work for the competition. Daniel slumped into his chair. Images from the weekend in Yorkshire mingled with the evidence in front of him. Emily's smile, Sarah's words about trusting people, Mrs. Davies's warmth. It's even possible the child isn't really sick, Richard added softly, or that it's not as serious as she made you believe. Enough, Daniel shouted, standing up abruptly. I saw the girl. She's really sick. And what does that prove? Only that they're very good actors. Daniel, wake up. They saw you coming a mile away. Doubts began to gnaw at him. All his life, he'd learned to distrust, to protect himself. And just when he'd let his guard down, when he'd started to believe in something pure and real, that afternoon, Daniel arrived early at the penthouse. Sarah was in the kitchen preparing dinner as usual, humming a song. She looked so normal, so innocent. Sarah. She turned with a smile that vanished when she saw his expression. Daniel, what's wrong? I need you to explain some things. The cold tone made Sarah put the knife down on the chopping board. What kind of things? Your brother, Michael Miller. Why didn't you tell me about him? Sarah blinked, confused. Michael? I didn't think it was important. Why? Because he works for TechCorp. The color drained from Sarah's face. Yes, he got a job there a few months ago. He needed the money to help with Emily's expenses. Why? Is there a problem? Are you seriously asking me that? Daniel's voice turned venomous. TechCorp is my direct competitor. They've been stealing my clients for months. I didn't know. Daniel, I don't understand these business things. Of course not, he exploded. Just conveniently you have access to my office, my documents, my contracts, and your brother coincidentally works for the company that's ruining me. Tears began to stream from Sarah's eyes. You're accusing me of espionage. Do you really think I... What am I supposed to believe? Daniel pulled out Richard's photographs. That all this is a big coincidence? Sarah looked at the images with growing horror. No, it's not what it looks like. Michael didn't know I worked for you. He just needed a job. Any job. And I'm supposed to believe you? Yes, Sarah cried. Because it's the truth. Because after everything we've been through, you should know me well enough to know that I would never hurt you. But Richard's words echoed in Daniel's mind. All his life, he had been taught that when something seemed too good to be true, it probably was. I want you to leave, he said finally, his voice broken. Right now. Daniel, please don't. Emily's treatment. That's over. I'm not funding this lie anymore. The cry of pain that escaped Sarah was as if she had been stabbed. She staggered backward, clutching the counter. You can't do that. Emily will die without the treatment. You should have thought of that before you played games with me. Sarah looked at him with a mixture of pain and despair that would have melted any heart. But Daniel had rebuilt his walls higher than ever. "All right," she whispered. "I'm going. But I want you to know one thing. I fell in love with you. Truly. And I thought you felt the same." Daniel closed his eyes, fighting the pain in his chest. "Go, Sarah." Half an hour later, Sarah Miller walked out of the penthouse with a small bag of her belongings, and her heart broken into 1,000 pieces. Not only had she lost the man she had fallen in love with, but also the only hope of saving her daughter. Daniel was left alone in his penthouse, surrounded by the silence he once valued so much, and which now felt like a tomb. He poured himself a whiskey and tried to convince himself he had done the right thing. But when he found one of Emily's drawings that Sarah had left on the fridge, the portrait of the three of them together as a family, all his determination crumbled. For the first time in years, Daniel Hayes cried. And for the first time in his life, he wondered if he had made the biggest mistake of his existence. Meanwhile, on a bus to Yorkshire, Sarah held her phone with trembling hands, preparing to make the hardest call of her life, telling her mother that Emily's treatment was over. What a devastating turn. Do you think Daniel will discover the truth about Richard? Will Emily get her treatment? Share your anxious thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the truth to unfold. The truth revealed and a race against time. 2 weeks had passed since Sarah left, and Daniel hadn't managed to sleep a single full night. The penthouse felt like a mausoleum, too silent, too cold. Even work had lost its flavor, and the numbers on the screens seemed blurred. "You have to get over it," Richard told him during their daily meetings. "You did the right thing. She was a professional con artist." But something wasn't right. Daniel had reviewed the reports over and over, looking for inconsistencies, some definitive proof. The facts seemed solid, but his instinct screamed that something was wrong. The last straw was a call he received that morning. "Mr. Hayes?" The voice of Dr. Thompson from Yorkshire Children's Hospital sounded worried. "I'm calling about the child, Emily Miller. Her treatment was abruptly suspended, and I was wondering if there was a problem with the payments." "How is the child?" Daniel asked, feeling a knot in his stomach. "Without the medication, her condition has deteriorated rapidly. If we don't resume treatment soon..." "Mr. Hayes, we're talking about days, not weeks." Daniel hung up the phone with trembling hands. The image of Emily smiling with her pink wig haunted him. No matter what Sarah had done, the child was innocent. That afternoon, he decided to investigate on his own. He started by calling TechCorp, posing as a recruiter. "Michael Miller? Yes, he's one of our junior programmers," the receptionist confirmed. "He started 3 months ago. Excellent worker, very dedicated. Do you know why he left his previous job? I think he worked in a factory. He needed something better paid due to family problems. Would you like me to connect you?" Daniel hung up. A factory, not a tech company. If Michael was part of a conspiracy to steal clients, why would he have left a systems-related job for a factory? He kept investigating. He called Sarah's former employers. He verified references. He traced Emily's medical history. Everything seemed legitimate. Then he reviewed the company files differently, looking not for what Richard had shown him, but for what he hadn't. And there he found the first crack. The clients who had supposedly been stolen by TechCorp had not been contacted by Michael Miller. In fact, the dates of the lost contracts did not coincide with the days Sarah had been in his penthouse. Daniel felt the floor move beneath his feet. If the facts Richard had presented to him were not correct, then he worked all night, reviewing every document, every transaction, every date. At 4 a.m, the truth hit him like a hammer. The clients had not been stolen. They had been sold. And the person with access to that information was Richard. His hands trembled as he found the evidence. Hidden bank transfers, secret meetings, altered documents. Richard had been embezzling money from the company for years, and when he realized Daniel was paying attention to the finances because of Emily's medical expenses, he had needed a scapegoat. Sarah had been perfect. A vulnerable housekeeper with desperate needs, and a brother who conveniently worked for the competition. "You son of a," Daniel muttered, feeling a mixture of fury and nausea. Not only had he lost money, he had lost the woman he loved, and he had condemned an innocent child to death, all because of his paranoia and the manipulation of his supposed best friend. Without losing time, Daniel packed everything into his car and drove straight to Yorkshire. It was 6 in the morning when he arrived at the hospital and found Sarah asleep in a chair next to Emily's bed. The girl looked terrible. She had lost weight, her skin had a grayish tint, and the machines around her beeped constantly and worryingly. "Sarah?" he whispered. She opened her eyes, disoriented. When she saw him, her expression changed from confusion to pain, and then to a coldness Daniel had never seen in her. "What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. I made a terrible mistake." "The only mistake here is mine," Sarah replied, her voice broken. "For believing that a man like you could truly care about people like us." "Sarah, please listen to me. Richard lied to me. I have proof that he was stealing money from the company and needed to blame someone else. You were his perfect target." Sarah looked at him with eyes full of angry tears. "You know what? I don't care. It's too late." "No, it's not too late. I'm going to transfer the money right now. Emily is going to receive the best possible treatment." "And then what? Are you going to disappear again when someone else puts strange ideas in your head? Are you going to accuse me of being a liar again the next time your paranoia gets the best of you?" Sarah's words were like slaps, but Daniel accepted them because he deserved every one. "You're right. I'm a coward. All my life I've been so afraid of being hurt that I hurt others first." He knelt beside her chair. "I love you. I love Emily. I love both of you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone." "Don't say that," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "It's true. And I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one. Not for me, but for Emily." "And why?" "Because in Yorkshire, for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere." Sarah closed her eyes, battling between the love she still felt and the pain he had caused her. "How can I trust you again?" "You can't. I can only show you, day by day, that I've changed, that you are the most important thing in my life." At that moment, a weak little voice interrupted the conversation. "Daniel?" Emily had woken up. "Did you come to see me?" Daniel approached the bed, his heart breaking at how fragile the girl looked. "Yes, princess. I came to take you home." "Really? Am I going to get better now?" Daniel looked at Sarah, who, after a long moment, nodded almost imperceptibly. "Yes, my love. You're going to get better." An hour later, as the doctors resumed Emily's treatment, Daniel and Sarah sat in the hospital cafeteria. "This doesn't mean everything's okay between us," Sarah said. "You hurt me a lot. Not just me, but Emily." "I know, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Sarah studied him with tired but hopeful eyes. "What's going to happen to Richard?" "He's going to rot in jail, and I'm going to recover every penny he stole." They spent the rest of the day in the hospital, watching Emily respond almost immediately to the medication. When the girl fell asleep that night, Daniel did something that surprised Sarah. He took a small ring from his pocket. "I know it's too soon after everything that happened," he said nervously, "and I know I don't deserve an answer now, but I want you to know that my intentions are serious. I love both of you, and I want to be the man you deserve." Sarah looked at the ring with tear-filled eyes. "Daniel, you don't have to answer now. Just stay with me. Let's give this a real chance." Emily, who apparently wasn't as asleep as they thought, opened one eye. "You're going to say yes, Mummy, because I already told him he could be my dad." For the first time in weeks, Sarah laughed. It was a small, tired, but real laugh. "All right," she whispered, "a chance. But if you ever doubt me again, I won't. I promise." And this time, Daniel made a promise he knew he would keep, because he finally understood that real love requires faith, not proof. What an emotional roller coaster. Do you think Sarah is making the right choice to give Daniel a second chance? Share your feelings in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the heartwarming finale. A family built on trust 6 months later, Daniel's penthouse had completely changed. It was no longer the cold, sterile space it once was. Now there were Emily's drawings on the fridge, storybooks on the coffee table, and the aroma of Sarah's home cooking filled the air every evening. "Daniel, come look!" Emily cried from the balcony, her pink wig replaced by her own hair, which had grown thick and shiny. Daniel left his laptop and ran to her. The girl pointed towards the sky, where a rainbow stretched over the city. "The doctor said that means good luck," Emily said seriously, "and that when children who were sick see rainbows, it means they'll be healthy forever." "They did?" Daniel asked, picking her up. "Well, then it must be true." Emily's medical tests had been perfect for 3 consecutive months. Doctors spoke officially of complete remission and unofficially of a miracle. "Where's your mom?" Daniel asked. "In her study, doing boring business stuff," Emily replied, rolling her eyes dramatically. Daniel smiled. Sarah had started taking online business administration classes, and he had been helping her with the more complicated concepts. Her dream of owning a restaurant no longer seemed so distant. "Hey, Emily, can you keep a secret?" "Depends. Is it a good secret or a boring grown-up secret?" "It's the best secret in the world." Emily's eyes widened. "What secret?" Daniel put her down and knelt to her height. "Tonight, I'm going to ask your mum to marry me, but I need your help." Emily shrieked with excitement and jumped into his arms. "Yes, yes, yes! What do I have to do? I can wear my pink dress. We're going to live together forever." "Wow, one thing at a time," Daniel laughed. "First, she has to say yes." "She's going to say yes," Emily replied with complete confidence. "Last night I heard her talking on the phone with Granny, telling her she loves you very much and that she's never been so happy." Daniel's heart swelled with joy. "Really? Really? Now tell me what my job is." That afternoon, Daniel carefully prepared everything. He had reserved Sarah's favorite restaurant, bought flowers, and had the ring perfectly tucked into his jacket pocket. But Emily had other plans. "Why don't you ask her here?" she asked during dinner. "It's nicer at home." Daniel looked at Sarah, who seemed confused by the conversation. "Ask me what?" she asked. "Nothing," Daniel and Emily said at the same time, which only increased Sarah's suspicion. After dinner, while Sarah washed the dishes, Emily whispered to Daniel, "Now, do it now. Are you sure? Mummy says the best moments in life happen in the kitchen." Daniel took a deep breath and approached Sarah, who was still facing away, washing dishes. "Sarah, can you turn around for a moment? Let me finish this. It's important." Something in his tone made Sarah turn, and she found Daniel kneeling on the kitchen floor with a ring in his hands. "Daniel." "What?" "Sarah Miller," he began, his voice trembling. 8 months ago, I thought I was going to fire you for being a problematic employee. I didn't know you were actually going to change my entire life." Tears began to form in Sarah's eyes. "You taught me that money is useless if you don't have someone to share it with. You taught me that a family isn't about blood, but about choice. And you taught me that real love means trusting, even when you're afraid." Emily came running from the living room, clapping. "Tell her my part," she shouted. Daniel laughed through his tears, and Emily taught me that being a dad isn't about DNA, but about being present, reading bedtime stories, worrying about nightmares, and celebrating every small triumph as if it were the biggest in the world. "Daniel," Sarah whispered, Sarah, will you marry me? Do you want us to be a real family, forever?" Sarah was speechless for a moment, looking at the man who had transformed from a cold boss into the love of her life. "And what do you think, Emily?" she asked her daughter. "Say yes," the girl shouted. "I already told him he could be my dad." For the first time in weeks, Sarah laughed. It was a small, tired, but real laugh. "All right," she whispered. "A chance. But if you ever doubt me again, I won't. I promise." And this time, Daniel made a promise he knew he would keep, because he finally understood that real love requires faith, not proof. 6 months later, in a small garden in Yorkshire, surrounded by family and friends, Daniel and Sarah became husband and wife. Emily, radiant with health and dressed like the princess she had always wanted to be, carried the rings in a small basket decorated with flowers. During the ceremony, when the officiant asked if anyone had any objection to the marriage, Emily raised her hand. "I have something to say," she shouted, making everyone laugh. "What do you want to say, my love?" Sarah asked. "That Daniel is the best dad in the world, and that Mummy deserves to be the happiest bride in the world, and that I'm going to be the best big sister when they have more babies." The congregation erupted in laughter and applause. "Big sister?" Daniel whispered to Sarah. "Not yet," she whispered back. "But maybe soon." When they finally kissed as husband and wife, with Emily clapping between them, Daniel felt his life had arrived where it was always meant to be. At the reception, while they danced their first song as husband and wife, Sarah whispered, "You know what's the most incredible thing about all this?" "What?" "That it started with you thinking you were going to fire me, and it ends with me promising never to let you go." "Never ever," added Emily, who had snuck into their dance, "because now we're a real family." And as the three of them danced together under the Yorkshire stars, surrounded by the love of their loved ones, Daniel knew he had found the greatest wealth of all, a home filled with love, laughter, and the promise of all the tomorrows to come. The girl who had once been on the verge of death now spun full of life between her parents. The woman who had come into his life as an employee was now his wife and best friend, and the man who had lived in the solitude of his penthouse now had a family that filled him with purpose and joy. It was in every sense a perfect ending, but it was also, as Emily never tired of reminding them, just the beginning of their true love story. What an incredible, fulfilling journey. What part of Emily and Daniel's story inspired you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more heartwarming, true-to-life narratives. 3 years later, a legacy of love. 3 years had passed since that magical wedding in Yorkshire, and life had blossomed in ways none of them had imagined. "Order for table 5, Sarah shouted from the kitchen of the Golden Spoon, the restaurant she had opened in the heart of Covent Garden. The place was packed every evening, with the aroma of roasted lamb and hearty stews filling the air. "Coming, boss," responded her sous chef with a smile. Sarah had proven to be as talented in business as she was in cooking, and the restaurant had become one of the city's favorites. At a corner table, Emily finished her maths homework while waiting for her mum to finish the night shift. At 9 years old, she was a bright and energetic child, with no trace of the illness that had once threatened her life. "Need help with that?" a familiar voice asked. Emily looked up and smiled to see Daniel approach, loosening his tie after another day at the office. "Daddy, these multiplications are really hard." "Let me see," Daniel said, sitting next to her. He was no longer the cold, distant man he once was. 3 years of fatherhood had softened him, made him more patient and affectionate. As he helped Emily with her homework, Daniel watched Sarah direct her kitchen with the confidence of an experienced chef. Her business had grown so much that they were already considering opening a second branch. "How was your meeting with the investors?" Sarah asked him when she finally approached their table, taking off her apron. "Excellent. The proposal to expand to Birmingham was approved," Daniel replied, kissing her forehead. "But that's not the most important thing I have to tell you." "Oh, really? What could be more important than doubling our restaurants?" Daniel smiled mysteriously and placed a small box on the table. "This." Sarah opened the box and found a tiny pair of yellow baby booties. "Daniel, what is this?" "It's for your birthday present, arriving in 7 months." Sarah's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Seriously? We're having a baby?" "A baby!" Emily shrieked, jumping from her chair. "I'm going to be a real big sister." Daniel nodded, with a smile that lit up his entire face. "The doctor confirmed the results this afternoon. Everything's perfect." Sarah threw herself into his arms, and Emily joined the family hug that was now their favorite ritual. "Do you think it'll be a boy or a girl?" Emily asked excitedly. "It doesn't matter," Sarah said. "What matters is that we're going to be an even bigger family, and that the baby is going to have the best big sister in the world," Daniel added, picking up Emily. That night, after closing the restaurant, the three of them returned to their new house in Hampstead. They no longer lived in the cold penthouse of before, but in a warm house with a garden, where Emily could run and play, and where there would now be space for a baby. "Do you remember when you thought Mummy was a thief?" Emily asked, as she got ready for bed. "You didn't think that," Daniel reminded her. "I was the silly one who thought that. But everything turned out well in the end," Emily said, with the wisdom of her 9 years. "Because sometimes bad things have to happen for good things to come." "Where did you learn that?" Sarah asked, tucking her in. "In the hospital. The doctor said my illness was bad, but thanks to it, you two met. So in the end, it was good." Daniel and Sarah looked at each other over Emily's head, remembering all the journey they had traveled together. "You're right, Princess," Daniel murmured. "Sometimes the most beautiful things are born from the most difficult moments." An hour later, as Emily slept peacefully, Daniel and Sarah sat on their bedroom terrace, looking at the stars and talking about the future. "What do you think we should name the baby?" Sarah asked, Daniel's hand resting on her flat belly. "If it's a girl, I'd like Eleanor, like your mum. And if it's a boy, Michael, like your brother, to compensate for all the harm Richard did to his reputation." Sarah smiled. Michael had been completely exonerated when the truth about Richard came out, and now he worked at Daniel's company as head of systems. The family had completely healed. "You know what I love most about our story?" Sarah said. "What?" "That it started with tears on your kitchen floor, and now we end up building a family in a kitchen that's ours." Daniel hugged her tighter. "It's not over," he whispered. "It's just beginning. We have a whole life ahead. More restaurants, more adventures, watching Emily grow up, meeting our new baby, and continuing to fall in love every day." "And continuing to fall in love every day," he repeated. From Emily's room, a sleepy little voice drifted. "And I'm going to be the best big sister in the universe." They both chuckled softly. Even asleep, Emily remained the joyful heart of their family. As the stars twinkled over London, Daniel Hayes held his wife and thought of all he had gained since that night he found Sarah crying in his kitchen. He had found love. He had found a family. He had found a purpose greater than any business success. And the most beautiful thing of all was that this true love story was just beginning. With a baby on the way, a flourishing restaurant, a healthy and happy daughter, and a love that had survived every test, the future stretched before them, full of golden promises. As Emily always said, sometimes the best stories begin with tears, but the most beautiful ones always end with smiles. And this family had learned to value every smile, every hug, every moment of happiness, as the most precious treasure in the world. The millionaire had found his true wealth, and the employee had found her prince. But more than that, 3 lonely souls had found their home in the unconditional love of a family that destiny had brought together in the most unexpected way. And so, this love story had just begun. What an incredibly satisfying conclusion. What part of Emily and Daniel's story inspired you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more heartwarming, true-to-life narratives.